Here in Paris, the Court of Cassation, France's highest court for criminal cases, which in the past half an hour has ruled that the arrest warrant for the former Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad was invalid. The ex-leader has been in exile in Russia since being toppled in a rebel-led coup last year. He was being tried in absentia over the use of chemical weapons against civilians during the long civil war. The Court of Cassation ruling that there are no exceptions to presidential immunity that he had at the time. Let's go to the court. Let's bring in Claire Paccalin, our correspondent. Claire, good to see you. Talk us through this ruling.
Well, Gavin, I am with Jeanne Sulzar. She is a lawyer. She represented the civil parties in this case. So you have been working with those who brought this to light, Syrians who collected evidence after these chemical weapons attacks to build this case. Some disappointment in the courtroom today, but the fight continues and there's a way forward. Can you tell me what happened in the courtroom today?
Yes, so in the courtroom there were two cases today. There was one case, which is not the case that relates to the chemical attacks of 2014, which relates to the former head of the Syrian bank, central bank, and it relates to functional immunities. So functional immunities about state agent immunities. And on that case today, the court decided to reverse its jurisprudence of the last 20 years and to say that in the presence of international crimes, there is no functional immunity. So you can prosecute former state agents, including former head of states, if they are alleged to have committed international crimes, crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide. That was the first case. So in itself, it is a huge victory, and that is very important, but France was not the first court to say that. France was not the first institution to acknowledge that. But still, it's a big step. In our case, where we represent NGOs and victims of the chemical attacks in the eastern Ghouta in August 2014, it was about personal immunity. Personal immunity is attached to just a few number of persons that are sitting at the highest level of the states, still sitting. So heads of state, prime minister, minister of foreign affairs, sitting heads of state. The question was, is the arrest warrant that was issued back in November 2023 against Bashar al-Assad for war crimes and crimes against humanity, for using sarin gas against its own population, was it or not valid, or was immunity blocking the prosecution of Bashar al-Assad? Unfortunately, the court said that indeed personal immunity is an obstacle to the prosecution of Bashar al-Assad. So that's why it's a missed opportunity on that side. We were hoping that the court would go and finally acknowledge the fact that when the crimes are so grave, even if we are talking about sitting heads of state, there is a possibility for justice to happen for the victims.
But the judge did say that even though this arrest warrant would not be upheld because Bashar al-Assad benefits from that personal immunity because he was, when the arrest warrant was issued, he was still president of Syria. He no longer is president of Syria. He was toppled late last year. He's in exile in Russia. And the judge opened a way for a future arrest warrant to be issued. Can you tell us about what's the next steps for you?
Yeah, well, what the court said basically is that given that the court recognized that there is no functional immunities in the presence of international crime, that applies to Bashar al-Assad today. He is a former head of state now, so he cannot ask to be granted any kind of protection and any kind of immunity. So what the court said is invites the investigative judges who are continuing to investigate into that case here in France to issue another arrest warrant against Bashar al-Assad, and that a trial will happen. So the next steps are that we are expecting a new arrest warrant against Bashar al-Assad. The court gives its green light to the issuance of an arrest warrant because he is a former head of state. And what we're expecting now is that issuance of an arrest warrant, and in a couple of weeks or months, then that the investigation will be closed and will be sent to trial. So we're hoping, of course, for the victims that there will be a trial, and we are very hopeful on that. There will be a trial in France with regards to the chemical attacks of 2014. But one step at a time. Today, the court acknowledges that it's possible to reissue an arrest warrant against Bashar al-Assad, but unfortunately did not acknowledge the fact that back in November 2023, when he was still head of state, he could be prosecuted because he does enjoy personal immunities.
So the road ahead is full of obstacles, but there is a road ahead.
Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have to leave it there, but thank you very much, Jeanne
thank you.
Sulzar. Thank you very much for those complicated situations, but well summarised here. Thank you very much. Back to you, Gavin.
Claire, thank you. Claire Paccalin, our correspondent at the Court of Cassation in Paris.